Okay. We are go. I'll give it a couple of minutes, give everybody a chance to log in. I've been looking for my Colorino pen, my pencil, and I can't find it. I'm just going to go and check on my other desk and see if I've put it there. Hello, baby girl. Hi. Hi. How you doing? Have you seen Mama's pencil? Have you seen Mama's pencil? Do you know where it is? You don't know where it is. Okay. It's not in your bed then. Oh, sweet pea, don't start whining. There's a good girl. Oh. No, it's not there. Let's see. There it is. Little boy. Look, little boy. Ah, bit of help from Scooby and we found it. Oh, right. How are we doing, guys? Hello, Mr. Boo. Good boy. You're a good boy. Yes, you are. Now, you've all been for a pee. You've been to the park. You've been, had a drink. You've had some breakfast. So can we not? That's right. So can we not whine at Mommy, please? Ooh, rar, he says. He says, ooh, rar. Yeah, it's a bit... It's gone kind of warm and spring-like here. It's like first thing in the morning, it's really warm. I've had the door open all morning. And then when the sun goes over that side of the house, it goes really cold here, so I shut the door. And then we have a little bit of rain, and then it clears up. We've got blue sky at the moment and sunshine again. So it's kind of, but it's been like that for a few days now, and it's warm. It's 14 degrees today. I've had all the doors and windows open. It's been lovely. And now I'm cold because the sun's gone in. Oh, but at least it's like, it's 4:05 and it's still light, like light, not just like, oh, it's kind of going dark. It's light, it's like daylight, which is nice. Okay, so how did we get on with our Uranus digging? Anybody find out anything interesting? Anything fun? Anything fun to share with the class that you found?
I did last night.
Okay.
I found out that all its moons are named after Shakespearean characters.
Okay. How many moons are there?
I don't know, 7?
27.
27. I knew there was a 7.
Yeah, it's got the most moons. In fact, Uranus, I think Uranus and its moons is more objects than the rest of the solar system, if I remember correctly.
So cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. Anybody else?
It probably stinks.
Go on, tell us.
It's got an atmosphere made of methane, so it smells like cow farts. I bet you can smell that planet coming a million miles away. Stinky old planet. And it has rings.
Too many jokes. Too many jokes.
I know.
No. Yes, it's the most gaseous planet. They don't know exactly how big it is, but from the size and the mass and everything else, they think that it's actually quite a small planet, but most of it is methane, like you say. Anything else? Hey, Rach. Hi, Dor. Hope you're feeling better. I did mention it on YouTube, but Dor had a little bit of a turn the other day. She is in her 90s, so it's not unusual. But she ended up in hospital just getting checked out. And now she's doing, what have they got her doing, Rach? Rehab to make her more steady on her feet, because she panics a bit that she's going to fall over. So they're getting her to go and do rehab to give her a bit more confidence, which is great. She's going to see Nick Cave for her 91st. She's a Nick Cave fan. Dor rocks. Anyway, yeah, so just so everybody knows, they are at the hospital still, as far as I know. But everything's fine. They're just doing some MOT maintenance. She's having her MOT. It was discovered by Herschel, that's right. 1517? 13? 17? Oh, I can't remember. I'm suck with numbers. Bad with names, worse with faces, terrible with numbers. It's the only planet that has a Greek name, correct? What's its Roman equivalent? Anyone know? First planet to be discovered with a telescope, yes. Whose telescope? I know, I'm mean. Starts with a C, something like cereal. Yes, correct. I can never remember it either. Kylus? I know it's CAE. I always want to say Caecilius, but that was in the you know, the language readers. That was the dad of the family in the language readers. We had to make up ridiculous sentences, and mine was subito Caecilius in piscum discedit, which means suddenly Caecilius fell in the fish pond. my Latin tutor loved it. I'm sure my Greek husband would know. It's tricky sometimes with all the Roman and Greek and switching from one to the other, but yeah, Uranus is actually the only planet named after a Greek god. All of its 27 moons are named after Shakespearean characters like Oberon, Miranda, Titania, and so on. Most of them come from... Not true. Not true. What's not true? Some of them are named after Pope. Are they?
Yes, it said that some of the names were taken from Alexander Pope's Rape of the Lock poem, which is easy to forget because it's really boring.
I quite like that poem.
Do you?
I don't remember the names in it though.
Well,
yeah,
that's what...
I like Pope and Coleridge. I'm the only person in the world who likes S.T. Coleridge.
Well, that's what Wiki said.
I'm not sure about that.
I'll double check it. Be right back.
It could be that the names double up. I thought they all came from The Tempest and Midsummer Night's Dream. She's gone to have a look. Anything special about it physically?
It's on its side.
It is, correct. Do we know why? Did anybody read the update?
It got hit. Did it get hit or something?
That's what they think, yeah. That round about the time the Earth got hit by a meteorite and the dinosaurs died, Uranus may have got hit by a similar object, or an object in the same. If it was a meteor strike, obviously there would have been more than one of them. And they think that Uranus may have got hit so hard that it got knocked off its magnetic axis and literally, axis, not access, and literally fell over. But they don't know why it stays there. Because when the Earth gets hit, it moves, but it gradually moves back again. But they don't know why Uranus stays there. They think it has something perhaps to do with the size and number of its moons. But until they actually know exactly how big it is, they can't tell, because when you look at it, it looks bigger than Jupiter, but actually most of it's gas. They don't even know if it is like just a small lump of rock. It could be the size of Mars. They don't know.
Wiki says it's Shakespeare and Alexander Pope.
Oh, okay.
For the moons. I don't know. They must have run out. I mean, they had to find 27.
Run out of Shakespearean characters?
Well, that does seem
I don't think so, somehow. I don't... It's not that I doubt you, Andrea. It's just that I don't necessarily trust Wikipedia.
I wonder if it's like the later ones that were found.
It could be. It could be that there was a list. You know, you get one source says they're all named after Shakespearean characters, and then of course a couple of years later they find a new one, don't they? So it could be that. I'm just going to look at that link, because that link had all of the moons listed, and I'm sure that link said all 27 of its moons are named after.
I'll go to NASA's site.
How weird. Oh, no. No, hang on a minute. Desdemona's not Shakespearean, is she? She's Pope. Miranda, Titania, Oberon, Umbrel, Ariel, Puck. That's Midsummer Night's Dream. Cupid, Mab, Cressida, Ophelia, Cordelia, and Perdita. That's Hamlet. Sycorax. I've never heard of that one. Margaret, Portia, Bianca, Desdemona, Belinda, Juliet, Rosalind, Trinculo, Stefano, Caliban, Setebos, Prospero, Francisco, and Ferdinand. Those are all Tempest.
And NASA confirms that it's Pope and Shakespeare.
Interesting. It's funny because you look at all those names and they all look Shakespearean, don't they? Okay, so that's cleared that up. Named after both. Anything else we know about interesting about Uranus? Oh, I checked the pronunciation. Actually, the Dutch girls have the closest pronunciation. I checked with somebody who speaks fluent ancient Greek, if that's possible, in the same way that I speak fluent ancient Latin. She said the actual pronunciation is Uranus, because the U has an accent on it. So it's actually Uranus. So Uranus, was it? The Dutch girls said they called it. So they've actually got the closest pronunciation. It has rings. Everybody says Saturn is the only planet that has rings, but Uranus has rings. Astrologically, Uranus is the first of what we call the generational planets. It's got an 84-year cycle. So that means basically that whereas everybody will have at some point in their life at least 2 Jupiter returns and Saturn returns, at least 1 Jupiter return and Saturn return, which is, what's a return? Come on. What's an astrological return of a planet? Many happy returns of the day. No? It's when a planet does... Oh, go on.
I was going to try and take a guess. When it...
Go on.
When it rotates through your sign?
Keep going, yeah.
In a year?
Exactly, you're there. Between you and Mara, you're there. It is when a planet does a full circle around your birth chart and literally returns to where its natal position is. The sun does it once every year, which is why you get many happy returns of the day. Many happy returns. We hope you have a long and prosperous life, etc. But obviously Uranus, 84 years, you would have to live 84 years to begin with, and your Uranus would have to be in a position to get back to where it was. Interestingly enough, Dor will have had a Uranus return because she's 90. So Dor will have had a Uranus return. Comes back to the same place it was when you were born. Yes, correct, Rose. So that might be something interesting to look at. I wish I'd thought of that earlier. That would be interesting to look at. We don't quite know Dor's exact date of birth. We know she was born at midnight on a particular day, but we don't know which midnight. Was it the midnight at the beginning of the day or the midnight at the end of the day? Usually you'd go for the midnight at the end of the day, but we don't really know. I think probably when people say midnight, they mean midnight at the end of the day. So I think that's probably the best one to go with. But yeah, I wish I'd thought of that earlier. Rich, will you send me Dor's details? If you don't mind, if she doesn't mind sharing them. And we'll have a look at her Uranus and see what it was up to 6-7 years ago. So yeah, it's a generational. So everybody born within that generation will have the same. So all of us, I think pretty much without exception, unless I think a couple of you might be a little bit too young, and we might have 1 or 2 who are, well, obviously Dor is way out over the average age of the class. 1st of July 1928, yeah. See, we don't have anybody before 1960 other than that, I don't think. You're not pre-1960, are you, Andrea? 61, yeah. I think you and... can't remember the other girl's name. You're one of the oldest in the class. I knew that. I can see you're on YouTube, Rachel. Ina, I don't think Ina's that old. I think Ina's the same age as me, isn't she? We got a couple of youngsters. We got a couple of I don't think Risha's old enough. So she would have the next generational set. But anyway, yeah, certain groups, like everybody pretty much should have the same Pluto configuration. Most of us will have the same Neptune. Generationally, you'll have the same Uranus. Whereas Saturn cycle, anybody? How many years? Anyone? 29, thank you, Jen. 29 and a little bit. It's always a little bit. any number you get, just add a little bit. Yeah, 29-year cycle. So everybody, by and large, will have at least 2 Saturn returns. Some people will get to 3. In fact, what's 329s? 330s is 90. So there's a possibility. Yeah, I think Dor will have had a 3rd Saturn return. Andrea will have had 2. I think most of us are just coming up to I think I'm coming up to my 2nd opposition. So, you know, there's quite a big distance is what we're saying between Saturn. What we've got is the inner planets. We've got the foundational planets, which is the 7. We've got the inner planets, which is the inner 5. We've got the outer planets, which is basically Saturn and Jupiter. And then we've got the real outside planets, the generational planets, Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto. Pluto downgraded, all the asteroids and extra things that they found and all that stuff. It is actually getting quite confusing with all the extras that they found until it is all sorted out, I'm going to say, by the professional astrologers. I basically stop at Pluto, but I do count some of the extra asteroids because they've been known about for a long time, like Ceres, she's been known about for a long time. So yeah, pretty interesting planet, Uranus. Uranus myth, of course, I suspect possibly one of the reasons Uranus isn't actually named as a Roman character is because he's pre-deity. Most of the planets are named after Titans or children of Titans, but Uranus is not a Titan. He's pre-Titan. He is the god. When we talk about the goddess as Gaia or Mother Earth, Uranus is the sky, the thing that covers Mother Earth. We all know what covering involves in ancient days. So Uranus is not so much a god as a part of creation. So if you're one of the people who thinks of the god and the goddess as the goddess is Mother Earth, Gaia, Mother Nature, then Uranus is the god, the horned god, the green god, the hunter, whatever. So the myth, we've gone through the myth before, but for those who missed it or haven't had a chance to look it up, very simple. Gaia, the Earth, was visited every night by Uranus, who liked to cover her every night. And because of that, she had lots of children. Some of them were lovely children and, you know, all muscle and tight buttocks like Saturn. And others were not so nice, like the Hydra and the Cyclops and a couple of others. There were ones with 100 heads and 1 eye and 3 left feet and things like that. And then there were others that were much better. the better looking ones were okay with Uranus, but he didn't like the freak show. So he basically said, here you are, Gaia, you can have these back. And he put them back in where they came from, which she didn't like very much. She thought that was a bit of an insult, not surprisingly. And she said to the other children, the good looking ones, okay, kids, here's what we're going to do. Your dad needs castrating. Who's up for the job? And everybody took a step back. And Saturn went, oh, pick me. Now, the interesting thing is that Saturn is the original ruler of Aquarius, the forward thinker, the ambitious one, the one who wants to see that everybody is not judged for their wrongs, but has their redress. So it's not like Libra wants to see everybody treated fairly, wants to get everybody justice. Saturn is much more about eye for an eye. Or in this case, genitals for an eye. So Saturn originally ruled Aquarius, very ambitious, very up for the job, very, oh yeah, I'm game. Let's have a go. Here we go. Spotted a chance to rule, basically, because if he could take his father's manhood, he could take his father's place quite literally. Gaia said, excellent, I'll sort you out a weapon. Forged a black iron weapon that was supposed to be the deadliest weapon ever made, etc., hid it in a mountain. And when Kronos was old enough, he'd go up and practice with this scythe that was made for him to do the deed with. Several years later, when Saturn is a bit better with his aim, Dad comes in, has his way with Mum. Saturn pops out from behind the curtain and goes, ha ha! And Uranus is understandably upset by this. But before he can do anything about it, because obviously he's pre-God, like, you know, he's a creator, therefore technically he can, you know, fix himself. Saturn grabs his bits and throws them into the sea, where Poseidon stabs them with a spear into the bedrock of the sea. And Uranus is not very happy about this, and he whimpers away with his tail between his legs. And not much else. From that point on, Uranus basically becomes just the sky god. He is no longer the god of creation, he's just the sky god. Saturn takes his place, and Uranus curses Saturn and all the other kids, basically says, you rotten little bunch of titans, I'll get you and your little dog too. And Saturn says, Titans, that has a ring about it. And they keep the name and they become known as the Titans. So you have Saturn and Zeus and, you know, all that lot. Can't remember exactly how many Titans there were. My Greek history isn't that good. So yeah, the Titans start interbreeding and, in Zeus's case, mixing with everything. Zeus pretty much, I think, is the very definition of pansexual. If it moved, he had sex with it, and if it didn't move, he had sex with it till it did, basically. Juno went about turning things into trees and cows, including her husband, and the other gods settled out to rule various planes of existence. Pluto, Hades, went to the underworld, and so on. Saturn took Uranus' place as the ruler of the Titans. He became the father figure, but Zeus was the father of the gods, because the gods is the next step down, the gods and then the demigods. Gods are created from a Titan and another god. Demigods are created from a god and something else. In Zeus's case, pick a thing. Hercules, Hydra, you know, depending on what he went with, depending on how ugly the offspring were. That's pretty much it. That's the myth of Uranus. And from there, he just pretty much disappears. He just, you know, he's now the father of technology and forward thinking, and he goes off and does his own thing, and that's it. But he does become the ruler of Aquarius. Interestingly enough, he takes over what Saturn's job was. So I find that quite interesting, that Saturn usurped his father as father of the gods, and Uranus just kind of dropped down a level and took over his dad's previous job. Nepotism at its finest. So Andrea wanted to do the story, like a storyboard. Storyboards, I don't find that interesting. I find the art more interesting. So I've tweaked it a little bit, because I think there's other people who don't find storyboards all that interesting either. That's not to say if you want to draw a storyboard, you can't go ahead and do it. That's absolutely fine. But I think, you know, there's one key part of the story, and that's the bit that Andrea wanted to draw anyway. So I thought, hey, why don't we go for it? So we have, I put it in the post. We have a piece called Mutalialis. It is a Florentine piece by two guys that I can't remember the name of. Created in the 1500s, it's a 16th century piece. It is oil on panel. So, and if you look at the actual pieces, you can see where the panels are. So these panels here, quite thin strips. I didn't look up the dimensions, but I imagine it's quite large. And it's in the Palazzo Vecchio in Florence. So it's Italian Renaissance, basically, when gods and science and all that kind of thing was de rigueur. I thought it would be interesting to look at the composition of it and see what's going on. Because it's quite a big piece. Nope, that's not what I want. I haven't found quite, it's weird. I've got an iPhone, but I'm struggling to find my way around this. So what we've got here is there we go. Central figures. Obviously, Saturn is the key figure here. We've got Uranus prone, and the eye is drawn to the key bit. Now, Italian Renaissance was not scared of nudity, but they didn't like gore. So rather than having the actual deed happening, we've got this sickle there being used on Uranus. And if you look at the back of the composition, do you see what's in the back of the, right next to it? What's that? Hello, anyone?
Is it Earth? What is it?
It's Earth, yeah.
Oh.
There's Europe. You can even see, in fact, England, Spain, Italy, the Mediterranean, Africa, the known world as it was then. Obviously, we haven't got South Africa, isn't there? And because the Cape of Good Hope, Is that the bottom of Africa? That wasn't discovered yet. So the known world. What's that significance? What's the significance of having that world? If you, in fact, if you look at the composition, whoops, diagonally, the actual center of the piece is that point there, which interestingly is the connecting point between Saturn, the protagonist, the scythe, the weapon, and Earth. Anyone? It is a triangle, yeah. But what does Earth represent? Why is Earth there in that thing? Saturn's doing it with the scythe. Come on, Murderinos, what's the other representation we need? Gaia, thank you. The instigator. You have to have the reason. So we've got Saturn did it with the scythe in the drawing room because Gaia told him to. So this is a classical composition for the Renaissance where the culmination of what's going on is who, what, when, where, and why. Who's doing it? Saturn. Why is he doing it? Because Gaia wants it done. How? With a scythe. Interestingly, the scythe points from this little plot thing. We follow the scythe and we get the result, basically. What happens next? Swing, Dad. So this is a very classical composition of all of the components being right slap bang in the center of the picture with the results on either end. So if you look at either end of the scythe, the pointy end is doing what it does, and the other end, what have we got? What's this represent, do you think? What is it? Anyone want to hazard a guess? Come on, there's no wrong answers. Well, there are wrong answers, but, you know, I would never go, no, you're wrong, stupid. Any guesses? Think in terms of classical myth. What often happens to people who take over something in some way? Particularly in Italy. Italy has a long tradition of this. Julius Caesar, all the Caesars actually.
One of those wreath crowns.
Crown of laurels, yes. So he's basing his myths on a long tradition of history. And what he's doing is basically saying, look, us Italians come from a long line of awesome people. And what he's doing in a very tongue-in-cheek kind of way is saying that ancient Rome took over from ancient Greece. Because the crown of laurels is the Roman emperor's sign of power, basically. So we have Rome taking over from Greece in the classical world. And that's how they saw it, that Rome became the ruler of the world. Because of course it did, you know. We've got interesting things going on around the outside. I don't know what all these things are meant to represent. They will all represent something. I suspect they're supposed to represent the children, the other children of Uranus and Gaia, but I don't know who is who or anything like that. It's interesting that we got two old blokes. We've got a maiden looking away, which probably indicates some sort of innocence. She's looking away from all the horrible things that are going on. She's not part of the scene. She's just kind of there, but she's looking away. So that could be some sort of, probably one of the Aphrodites, or I'm not sure which one of them were Titans, if any. Then we've got one that's obviously enjoying herself while this spectatortation is going on. Might represent Venus or something like that. This girl is off with the fairies somewhere having a little party of her own. So you've got all these spectators representing basically the family of the gods, or the family of the Titans, the brethren, doing absolutely nothing to help their father is the point here. None of them are doing anything. Some of them are looking away. Some of them are playing. The children are playing. Some of them are going off doing their own thing. We've got two old blokes here running off somewhere. I don't know if they thought they were next or something. We've got one coming in literally with a laurel wreath to crown Saturn as having taken over from Dad. So obviously a pro-Kronos one there. Everything else is just, but none of them are rushing in to help. None of them are horrified. None of them are like, oh no, this shouldn't be happening. Let's help dear old Dad. Because dear old Dad was not a very nice person. And Gaia, right slap bang in the middle, being completely stoic. She's not even represented as a person. She's represented as the planet. Uranus is humanized. He's the sky god, but he's humanized. He's personified. We've got the mechanics of the sky and the globe and everything else, and Gaia suspended in animation in the middle of it. So she's the observer. Is she meant to represent us? Who knows? Tim Murray, is it? He's the BBC art historian. He's very good at explaining all this, and he actually did a big piece on this particular fresco. I wasn't paying attention. I know what I was told, and I don't remember the rest. So it's an interesting composition anyway, but when you actually look at it, it's kind of like these two portions of the painting are throwaway. You could have that taken off and that taken off, and you've still got the main piece in the middle. So all the key components are in this central section, including the representation of somebody who does not give a damn what's going on, the children who are playing, and the wreath being brought in to crown Saturn. Renaissance art doesn't follow the rule of thirds. It tends to follow geometric shapes because they were all about geometry. The golden rule and all that kind of stuff. So we've got a classical oval, we've got a classic circle, we've got another classic circle here. This is a triangular composition. Pretty standard kind of, I win, you lose. Very typical. If you think of, I can't remember what it's called. It's the soldier piercing Christ's side. Exactly the same composition, but turned up the other way. But of course, with that one, Jesus is held vertical, symbolizing that his death doesn't mean that he falls. It actually means that he rises, contrary-wise. This is definitely a fall from grace. Anyone want to add anything? I'm done art history, but I'm not an expert on Renaissance art. So if anybody wants to throw in some ideas or anything they've noticed, anything you notice in the picture that you think, oh, that's interesting.
The like gilded ring that's floating through the center.
Yeah.
Seems to have like gems on it, maybe of different colors. You have to really zoom in, but, or maybe alternating colors. It's hard to tell where it goes because you can't see the whole thing.
It also seems to have 12.
Yes.
So it might represent the zodiac. How many figures are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So it's not representative of the zodiac. How many? Oh, hang on, because we're into, it could be the 12 Titans. 1, 2, whoops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah. It has to be the Titans. That makes sense. With
it has to be, because the other two, hang on, where are the other two then?
I don't know, but it makes sense with the painting.
It does make sense. I wonder if 2 of the Titans were born after. Oh no, because they wouldn't be Uranus children then, would they? Are there? There's nobody hidden up here, is there? Let me have a quick Google. It would make sense for it to be the 12 Titans, wouldn't it?
Yeah, because these Renaissance painters were so thoughtful.
Yeah, everything meant something.
Yeah.
Everything meant something. Let's see.
Maybe part of the image is cut off because it's on a ceiling, right?
It is, yes. Which is why there's light. It's a dead giveaway. Anything that's on a ceiling is I'm
gonna go get my art history.
A light in the middle. Sorry?
I'm gonna go get my art history book. I'll be right back.
Yeah, see if there's anything in there, because I should have looked this up, I guess, but it's not my area of expertise. No, that's about the god himself. Giorgio Vasari. There we go. That's one of the painters. Yeah, I'm not finding anything on the actual things, on the actual painting. So I'm going to leave that to ugh. The trouble with the internet these days is anything you put in, like the Titans, it comes up as a bloody TV show. Okay, the Titans. Uranus, heaven, and Gaia, earth. According to Hesiod's Theogony, there were 12 Titans, the brothers Oceanus, Coeus, Creus, Hyperion, Lapetus, Cronus, and the sisters Thea, Rhea, Themis, Mnemosyne, Phoebe, and Tethys. So what's that in Roman? So I'm not good with. Do the Titans appear in Roman mythology? I don't. What were the Titans in Roman mythology? There we go. No, nobody knows. The Titans in Greek and Roman mythology. I know Oceanus was Poseidon and Cronus was Saturn. Hyperion rings a bell. I can't place any of the others. Okay. Titans in mythology. Roman names. Ah! No, Olympian gods and goddesses. Oh. Whoever came up with this idea of having a pop-up on every damn page of every damn site asking you if you want to continue needs shooting. They're probably some old bloke who never uses the internet. This is interesting. I've never thought about looking at the Titans from okay, let's do it this way. Thea in Thea's Roman name. Let's try that. Okay, so it would seem. Oh, she's equivalent to Cybele in Roman. That's weird. Because she's not a Roman goddess. This is interesting. I'm going to have to look at this further because I don't know. Maybe the Roman gods begin with Zeus, who took over from Kronos. Poseidon, Hades, and Zeus. Neptune, Hades and Zeus took over from Saturn. They're the Olympian gods. The primeval or ancient gods, the Titans, and then the Olympian gods. So the Olympian age begins with Zeus taking over from Saturn, and the Titans begin with Saturn taking over from Uranus. There doesn't appear to be any Roman counterpart to the Titans, particularly. I'm going to bookmark that page and come back to it. So I will look into that, because I'm curious about that myself now. So I'll look into it and report back. What have you found, Ashley? Anything on the painting itself?
No, not really. But Cronus is a Titan too, right?
Cronus is one of the Titans, yeah. All the children of the 12 Titans are the children of Uranus and Gaia. There's only 10 represented in the picture, but there's Cyclopes and Hydra, was it? The 100-headed monster? Was that Hydra? I can't remember the other one. That got put back in Gaia because he didn't like the look of them. They're the monsters. Interesting. Anyway, that's the art history bit. Anyway, I thought it would just be interesting to look at the composition of how it was put together and what he drew and why, because like Ashley says, you know, the Renaissance, they didn't do anything in the Renaissance without thinking about it first. So everything means something. I would hazard a guess that it's interesting. Well, it's interesting that we've got the zodiac and the science sphere and things like that going on. We've got this very sciencey kind of background because, of course, the takeover of Saturn to Uranus is literally the age of Aquarius. That's the you know, the dawning of science and the age of reason. Was that what it was called? The Renaissance was the age of reason, wasn't it? So all of a sudden you've got all this oldie worldy stuff and mythology mixed with the new science. It'll be interesting to see if Tim What's-His-Face has done a talk through of these, because he's just amazing. I'm sure his name's Tim Murray. He's a big fan of Titian. I don't know why everybody loves Titian, but he's a big fan of Titian. And he does a lot of, like, basically any BBC art history thing that's been done since about the 80s, he's done it. So I'm sure he will have done something on this. I don't know if it's a well-known enough piece, but it's certainly a big enough and important enough piece, because it's one of the first large frescoes that was painted on panel, because up to that point they'd been doing straight onto walls, so the frescoes didn't last. This was actual oil on panel. Okay, so should we ever go at drawing it? That's what Andrea wants to do. She wants to draw men getting violent with each other. We don't normally draw full bodies, and we don't normally draw men, so that'll be a bit of a challenge, won't it? I'm sure if we looked at this mathematically, there's probably some great maths in this. So Andrea, that's probably one for you. If you want to look up the mathematics of it, there's probably some really interesting stuff going on. But, you know, my level of maths is, oh, look, it's a right-angled triangle. So that's where we're going to, that's where we're going to stick with on the maths, okay? It's a classic 1x2, so it's a classic Fibonacci style rectangle made up of 2 squares. And again, if you do a diagonal across on each of your corners, that's where the meeting of the 3 is going to be. So you've got the world, you've got the scythe following that line, and you've got the hand of Zeus, the hand of Saturn coming in there. So that's the important section in the middle. Then you've got the result, the deed, and the perpetrator and the victim, basically. Perpetrator has a very short neck and very short legs. And he doesn't have any feet. How interesting. It's very unusual for a Renaissance painting to go off the edge of the canvas. I wonder if that's how the picture's cropped or if that's how the canvas is made. It'd be interesting to know that. No necks. They're all like this. Saturn is basically a hunchback. Uranus is a hunchback. I mean, it's all about the physique. Little pot bellies, lots of muscle tone. And the central figures are drawn with a lot more anatomical precision than any of the others. The others are almost, I mean, if you look at this girl, she's almost physically impossible. She is a very old classics, you know. As long as they've got 2 arms and 2 legs and a head, then that'll do. And if they're women, of course, give them boobs, and then we'll all know what they are. But the central characters, if you look at this section especially, look at his rib cage, you can see virtually every muscle group all the way down his side and all the way across here. There is a picture with his feet included. Oh, right. Okay. So it's just the crop of this particular picture then. Okay. That is I thought that was very unusual. Usually everything is contained in the picture in Renaissance. It's very unusual to have anything off the side. So thanks for that, Deb. Okay. So we've got the key central piece here. Let's try and sketch in. I think the standing figure has a lot of foreshortening and a lot of twisting. So let's try the prone figure, because his gesture is fairly simple. He kind of looks like he's going like this, he's backing away on the floor. So I think actually that's pretty much the gesture, isn't it? And he's going that way. Sorry, do you know what gestures are? Just occurred to me there might be people who don't know what gestures are. Gestures are the foundation of the action. So if you've got someone sitting in a chair, their gesture might be something like that. If you've got somebody standing up with their arms above their head, their gestures might be something like that. Notice how close these look to Greek symbols and things. It's an interesting, the astrological symbols are built up of pictograms in a similar way to Chinese kanji that we were talking about before. So the gesture is a simple line action that indicates the action of the figure. In this case, he's backing away. He's also got another leg here, and his arm is there. And he's got another arm up there. So you can see he's kind of pushing himself away with his arms. This guy, his gesture is a forward motion, but it's foreshortened. Bloody Renaissance painters, they've got to make everything so complicated. So he's pushing that way, he's pushing forward, but he's also twisting, and he's got his back to us. Excellent. So let's simplify this as much as we can. It's basically going to be his arms are going to be like that. And that leg kind of indicates his balance, I guess. I think it would be a little bit more. No, I think there. It's a tricky one, really tricky pose, that one. And even, I mean, I don't think even in the original it's all that successful. He literally looks like he's backing up. You know, his feet are scrabbling, he's pushing with his arms, he's backing up to try and get away. This guy just looks really deformed. It's almost like the emphasis isn't meant to be on him. The emphasis is coming down towards that side. All our attention is focused here and here. Literally, this is the action. It's almost not about Saturn. It's about Uranus. It's called the mutilation of Uranus. So you would expect it to be about Uranus, but it's interesting that Saturn is almost a secondary figure, and yet he's the protagonist. This fight is not between Saturn and his dad, it's between Gaia and Uranus. That's what this bit shows. He's almost not even part of it. He's just what's going to happen afterwards.
Andy has a super fun perspective on his calf.
I don't even know what's going on with that calf. That's like foreshortened, twisted, double foreshortened, leaning backwards, forwards, sideways, and every which way. I don't even know what's going on with that leg. His calf is like, this leg is like it's bending outwards that way. He's got a calf and then his leg comes there. So he's leaning forward on that leg. It's bending forwards. I don't know what this leg is doing. I mean, is it forwards and then his feet? I'm trying to imagine the pose. I think if you were thrusting that way, wouldn't the automatic reaction be to bring your knee up? If you actually do the action and you imagine standing on your right leg, your weight's on your right leg, you're twisting to your left, you're thrusting, it's almost a natural reaction to bring your left knee up in front of you to counterbalance. So I think that might be what he's trying to do, is he's trying to show that this leg, the thigh is going forwards and then the knee is bending back. So in reality, his foot is next to his calf. The problem is that this knee doesn't really bend forward. It doesn't go, it kind of does that. And I think maybe it should be doing more that. I think, okay, let me show you what I mean on a separate page. If you think of the thigh as a cylinder, he's got the thigh coming down here and it's really short. It's foreshortened, but he's just made it really short. And then he's got the ball joint and he's got the other cylinder of the calf correctly coming backwards and then the foot at the end. And I think what he should have drawn, obviously he's got the buttock there, but if you think about what that pose actually would do in order to have that foot next to the calf there, which is pretty much what it looks like, it's almost next to the calf. In order to have that foot there and the calf coming up there, I've drawn it off to one side, sorry. In order to have the foot and the calf at that angle with that level of foreshortening, the knee joint would be there. The buttocks are over here. That would have to be that way, wouldn't it? To make it look like it was going forward. There's not enough depth of this knee. It just looks like he's got a really short thigh. So I don't think he's been particularly successful in that thing. He's basically, the hip, the knee and the foot are in line with each other. So this knee should look like it's a lot further forward. And it doesn't. It's completely off. He's also got very short legs. Even if you add his foot, take that as his ankle and add his foot. Usually a classical figure would be to the shoulder to the foot would be 7.5 heads. And that's not 7.5. But then he's hunched as well. He's kind of down like this as well. It's a very weird pose. Sorry, was somebody going to say something?
Yeah, what is the cloth in front of him supposed to be? That weird drapery in front of him.
Yeah, he just kind of has a
Renaissance clothing.
It only covers your genitals, but not your butt?
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, he's effectively wearing a pink drape across, with a string across his back and a full thing at the bottom, and it just hooks up round his waist. It's almost like an apron, isn't it?
Oh.
It's interesting that it's pink.
It goes over his shoulder.
Well, yeah, it goes up to his shoulder, but it's held with a string. So it's almost like an apron. It's basically a big triangle of cloth that's hooked up around his waist and just held across there. It's interesting, isn't it? I wonder what that's about. Like Ashley says, it could just be Renaissance clothing. It's very weird. I don't know what it would be representative of. It might be because he's facing his mother. It might just be a modesty cloth. It might represent, you know, he's covering his bits in order to, well, I guess he's not protecting them with a bit of pink cloth, but he is, interestingly, pink in classical in everything. Pink nearly always symbolises woman. It's interesting that it's hung like an apron and he's doing a woman's job, or the woman's, not the woman's work, but the deed that the woman wants done. So maybe it's representative of something like that. I don't know. That's an interesting question. I hadn't actually noticed it. I hadn't noticed it at all. I'd noticed the bit of thread, but I hadn't noticed the pink fabric. How strange. Okay. So we've got Kronos here. His head is at an angle like that, tilting away from us. But we're not going to try and draw that because Renaissance painters are just completely crazy. Let's just put it that way. We've got the shoulders and the rib cage. We've got the stomach. We've got the hips. We've got the thigh and the other thigh and this leg coming down here with a foot. Nice bit of foreshortening on that one. It's interesting how that one really does look like it's going back and then forward. Although this kind of looks like it's straight and then it's bending under. I think that knee is in the wrong place. The knee, he's drawn the knee as if the kneecap is there. And really the kneecap would be over there on the other side of the leg. You wouldn't see that bit. And then we've got his leg coming down here and a foot, shoulder, arm, elbow, huge forearms, crikey. Hand. And then on the other side, we've got the other shoulder, the arm coming down similarly, and then the other hand coming out here. He's better at foreshortening arms than legs, let's put it that way. There's a better version of the ring Ashley mentioned showing faces between the gems. Ooh, interesting. Oh yeah, you actually can see there is a little face there and there. This isn't a very good picture. This is just the one that I could find that was a decent size to zoom in on. Okay, we're gonna have to fix that leg because that's a mess.
I have to mention that the Renaissance painters, man, can they do fabric?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Fabric and metal. I mean, look at the shine on that metal and the way it curves and the way you can literally see how one wraps against the other. And anatomy, the actual anatomy on this is amazing, where you can see all the muscle groups under the skin and everything. You can't foreshorten legs for toffee, but look at the way, for instance, on Saturn here, look at the way you see his ribs, his stomach, his hip, that, what do they call it on guys, where they have that dip around their hip bone. And then look at this bit where his glute comes up and around, and look at the shape of that there, where he gets that hollow of the hip. Absolutely amazing anatomy.
It's because they all
terrible foreshortening.
They tore apart cadavers to learn their muscles.
Yeah. I blame Da Vinci for that. I think he's pre-Da Vinci, but I blame Da Vinci for everything. Okay. So we've got some roughs in for this. This is going to be, I think, more that way. The weird thing is it's so wrong and yet it works. Very odd. And then, so he's looking down. We've got his torso. waist. He's kind of twisted, so his torso is going to be that kind of shape. And then we can see his hip. Yeah, his legs aren't long enough. His legs are not long enough, okay? And then I'm going to start at the bottom and work up, I think. So if his foot is there and his knee is there, so that's foreshortened to there, then his thigh needs to be foreshortened that way. Yeah, there's not enough angle on this thigh. That's what's wrong with it, I think. And I mean, I'm no expert on foreshortening myself, but if you take this bit and if you look at where that knee needs to be, the knee itself, oops. Let's have a colour that's going to show up, shall we? Go a bit brighter. The ankle to the knee to the hip, it needs to be more of an angle. I think, for that to work. In fact, I think this hip, this thigh would even come down to the point where it would cover. Because if you think about the way your legs bend, it's so hard to imagine what a leg looks like from the back when you're not used to looking at it. The thigh would cover part of the knee, wouldn't it? So it would have to be at a bigger angle, like that. Yeah, that angle's not wide enough. So if he had done that, I think it would have looked better. It's a very slight adjustment, but it makes a big difference. So I'm going to do that with mine. I'm going to adjust it so that that foreshortening. We're actually doing what the Renaissance painters used to insist on everybody doing. We're copying somebody else's work and improving it. This is what you did. You copied somebody else's work so that you learned the techniques, and then you improved their work and did your own.
Is that mimesis?
Mimesis?
M-I-M-E-S-I-S. I was reading about art education, and they were talking about mimesis, where you tried to copy something square.
Oh, yes, yes. Sorry, I was thinking that's not a Greek god. My brain's on Greek names. Yes, that's the technique. It's called mimesis. So this is going to come down here. That's going to be where his hand is, his arm. See, that foreshortening on that arm is really good. But he hasn't, the foreshortening on all the arms is really good. But those legs, I mean, look at her legs. She's practically deformed, for goodness sake. And yet her hands and arms for that position, I mean, it works, but it kind of looks like, you know, those mimes. Have you seen the dog mimes where it's like the dog in a sweater in human hands? Isn't that what she looks like? Like it's not her hands.
It sort of looks like a salacious bit of soft porn thrown in to keep interest or something.
Yeah, Here's one for the hetero men.
Yeah.
This Saturn is what we're actually looking at, but if you're interested in women, here you go.
Hey, something for everyone.
Oh yeah. Okay, so we've got this hand. See, this arm is amazing. Look at the twist on that arm. The torque on the muscles from here. Look at that muscle group. The torque on that muscle and under the arm and around, and the way this arm is twisted. The elbow is at the top. His arm is twisted like that. It's a fantastic bit of work. And yet, look at that leg. It's like, what the hell? I think he was an arms man. Liked a nice bit of muscle. So this is twisted up at a weird angle and then twisted back down at a weird angle. It's literally kind of like that, backwards on itself.
I didn't know this, Ro, but I can pull your screen around so that I can look at any part of your desk that I want to.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought I had to look at the main view. But I'm pulling it around and I can see all over the place.
Yeah. What are you looking on?
Well, I'm looking at the main view on your desk. I didn't realize I could pull it. Yeah, I can pull it around.
No, what are you using to look at it? Are you on a tablet, a phone?
Oh, no, I'm on my big monitor at my desk.
Oh, right, okay. If you shrink it down, you should be able to see the whole thing as well.
This is awesome. Zoom can do a lot of stuff.
So that's why I like Zoom, because I don't have to zoom in. You can do it.
Yeah.
You can focus on what you want to watch.
Awesome.
It's a bit difficult with this camera because it keeps jiggling about because it's attached to the table, but I can't do anything about that. Okay, I think we've got a good basic thing, a basic layout. So now what I need to do is find my eraser, which I think is over there. Hang on a second. So now I'm going to get rid of anything that is extraneous to what we need. Oops. We don't need these guidelines now. Kind of, I'm going to add the extra bit on the bottom. It'll make it a little bit off, but well, I don't suppose it will actually, because we can add the wreath on that side. That's the main action there. See, the centre's off now, but never mind. There is actually a line along there of the floor. So lightly, now, back in the days before you could use an iPad with lots of different layers, what you used to do was then use a different colour pencil, so a red ideally, because red and blue are two of the channel colours. On a computer, you've got channels in colours, red, green and blue. And when you put this into like Photoshop or anything like that, you can delete a channel. So you can hide an entire channel. So you could hide all of the blue and just have something else showing. That's why a lot of animators draw in blue or red and then draw over it in the opposite color. And why you use a green screen at the back. Okay, got a little useless information for you there. I don't have a red pencil. Why don't I have a red pencil? Oh, here we go. There's a red. Cadmium red. It'll do nicely. I'm using a Faber-Castell because they're nice and hard. So now we're going back in, we're going to flesh this out as a more correct piece, I guess. We're not going to do too many details at this point. We're just doing rough shapes. So there's his shoulders coming up around here. He's got arms like Popeye. It's really funny. That hand is really good. So his shoulder kind of goes behind him like that, which is a bit weird, but that's how it's drawn. So and we've got his breast, rib cage, pecs, little pot belly. It's kind of cute, actually. This is the back coming down onto his slightly flabby bum because he's old. He may still be a bit fit, but he's definitely old. Let me see, where's his neck? His knee's coming up to about here. So he's got the curve of that muscle there. Am I a bit too far up? I think I've put these in the wrong place. Hang on. Let's try that again. Where's the thigh? So the thigh comes up there to the knee. So his belly is there. I somehow ended up with an extra section. Don't know how. It's quite interesting because you can draw the muscle group, the muscle pieces like this as they go around. You can almost imagine it being on one of those medical things, you know, where you've got the bones and then they put the muscles and sinews on before they put the skin on, and you can see it like that. It's very creepy. And then we've got a hand coming up here. Again, very delicate hand. It's very good at hands. I think his face is going to have to be a little bit bigger. So we're looking at probably that for his face. Beard coming down there. He doesn't have much of a chin because he's facing away from us. He's kind of got his head tilted that way. So that'll do for now. This leg is a mess. We'll deal with that in a minute. So this guy, let's start with his shoulders because that's the important line, isn't it? That line of the shoulder from the neck down and down to the elbow and down around and down to the hand. And then back up and sinewy, overlapping. And again, you can literally draw in the muscles. So you've got the breastbone, the rib cage, the little pot belly, the hip, that awful thigh, we'll deal with that in a minute. And the back of this shoulder, down. The arm, again, twisted, such good, I think they call it torsion, when the body twists in a funny way. I believe that's the correct word. So good. Look at this way, this muscle literally bulging off the bone where he's stabbing down. Incredible. Back of the hand there. This is not quite right, but and a stretch. He's got a stretch in this side. If you look at the hip line, it's not level. So I've drawn my hips level and they really shouldn't be. There's a stretch line there. That goes up. This thigh, I'm going to draw it more like that. This one's all right. I'm happy with the placement on that one. You could see his toes. His head is very definitely twisted. So it's almost a sideways. I'm going to do it there, like that. So you can't really see the bottom part. So you won't see his nose. You'll just see the top of his ear. There's his eye. And his head. This guy, you'll see, I think his head's too dome-like. His head needs to be a little bit flatter because his nose, we're not seeing the sideways of his nose. What we're seeing is kind of that version. Let's tidy this up a bit. Yeah, I think he might have drawn his head a little bit big, but never mind. Not doing too badly, not doing too badly. So here's the sickle, scythe, sorry. The hands with the crown are coming in up here. Like the turn of that foot, that's really good. The way the knee comes down, but then like when you're pushing away with your heel, your foot kind of turns in, doesn't it? And he's done that. The heel is digging into the floor, but that foot is kind of turned away from us. Some of his details are so accurate, so good. And it's almost like there's other bits where he's like, oh, I can't do that bit, whatever, it'll be fine. Okay, I think I want a little bit more movement on this end. So I'm going to move this elbow back a little bit. I think I want this to be a bit more dynamic here. There we go. Gives him a bit more backwards motion. If you've got as soon as you've got an angle, especially with this coming down and you've got an angle that way, this, the further you make that angle, the more action it's going to look like. Which might be why he made that extra bit on the back there, to make it look more kind of like that, like he's turning away. I'm going to miss that bit off. I think it looks weird. I can't draw it the way he's drawn it. You got the beard coming down, covering a multitude of sins. So that's useful. Again, you can draw the muscles. You can see the muscle groups. So you can draw the shapes that he's drawn in. You've even got the sinews coming down on this arm. It's fantastic detail. And his bum, he actually looks like, and there's a bit missing, but it actually looks like he's twisted slightly. You can almost see his backside there. This leg is a mess, so I'm just going to do what I can with it. The foot is here. The foot is there. It doesn't even look like the right foot, does it? The shape of that foot. Is that foot even the right way round? It looks like, if you draw the outline of the foot, it goes that way, and then it goes in, and then it goes out. But isn't that the instep there? And then it would go that way. He's drawn that foot the wrong way around. How weird. Guy's got 2 left feet. Well, he's got 2 right feet. How absolutely peculiar that he's got 1 foot that is so good, and then the other one looks like it's the wrong way round.
It looks like the arch is on the wrong side, but
the arch is on the wrong side of the foot, yeah.
But the toe is on the right side.
It should be that way round, shouldn't it?
Or the big toe is on the right side. It's so weird.
But the way the big toe is, if that's the big toe, the arch should be here, shouldn't it? He's drawn it completely the other way around, and yet that other foot is so good. Rachel's losing her power. Okay. Thanks for joining us. See you later. You can replay it another time. So let's redress this by putting the arch of the foot should be there, not where he's got it, which means you can bring that down there and then it looks right, you see, because the arch of the foot, that's what makes that foot look wrong. Well, amongst other things, amongst the fact that his knee's here and his foot, his bottom leg can't possibly bend like that. It's not physically possible.
Yeah, that knee is, the knee is pointing in the wrong direction for that ankle.
The knee goes that way. And then in order for that foot to be under there, that's the top of the thigh. The top of the thigh would have to be on the other side of his thigh for that foot to be correct, which means that the knee wouldn't be there. It would be rotated round. He's got the knee here and the thigh, and then the leg literally bends under his other leg.
Maybe that's our 12th Titan's foot.
Well, he's not a Titan, so he's not got that.
No, I mean, that's the hidden Titan we can't see.
Oh.
Ashley found him. She found the missing Titan.
I'm going to move this thigh, actually should be more up here.
The power on the phone's going to go any minute, so...
All right, Rach, thanks for joining us.
Oh, your phone.
Say bye to Kay, Mum.
Oh,
Bye,
bye,
doll.
Kay.
Take care of yourself. Drink your tea.
Power's going.
Yeah. We'll see you again soon.
Turned off then.
She'll see you soon.
Yes, we'll see you soon, Kay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. I think we're doing okay. I think we're doing all right with this now. Not too bad. I mean, given what we're trying to work with, you know, and how long we've got to do it, I don't think we're doing too bad. Mine hasn't got a short leg, mine's got a baby leg. As I'm looking at it, this leg is not, still not right. It should be more. That's better.
Well, I got further with this than I ever would have thought I could. This is really interesting.
Copying other people's work. It helps you to understand composition. I'm learning stuff from doing this because I've never done it before. So, anyone else want to show theirs? I mean, come on, mine's not perfect. Mine's nowhere near perfect. I think his legs are 2 different lengths, actually. That knee needs to be further up there and this foot needs to be further down here. Ashley, let's have a look at Ashley's. Right, hang on a minute. I've got to stop sharing there. I've got to pin me. And then I've got to share Spotlight with Ashley. Ooh!
I moved his
exercise before. Have you done this before with classical Renaissance? That's really good. I can't hear you. We can't hear you. Your mic was on and you turned it off again.
I moved his leg.
Yeah.
Because
I love the top half of Uranus is brilliant.
Thanks.
Face, look at that face. It's really good.
There's some really weird things going on. Like the finger is way too long for a finger. If you look at the
Okay, Beth. Yeah, sorry.
That goes behind the sky, but that's how it is.
I think you've got two issues here. Anyone want to hazard a guess at what the issues might be with the fundamentals of how Ashley's drawn this?
Sizing? Like
the sizing is a result. The sizing is a symptom. It's not a cause. The sizing is like coughing. Nobody dies from coughing. They die from pneumonia. So what's the disease? Anyone? Look at your own stuff and think about how you would have drawn it. Look at what I've done. Key difference that will have caused a major issue right from the beginning. No? Ashley, if you had to start this again, what's the first thing you would do to start correcting? If you had to have a second go, what would be the first thing you'd do?
More
wrong.
Starting with shapes.
Wrong.
More shapes.
No. Jane's got it.
Answer?
You would have turned the paper.
Oh, landscape?
You are trying to fit a landscape piece into a portrait page.
Yeah.
If you'd drawn that the same way, but sideways on the paper, in fact, I would say, take that page out or scan it or whatever it is you do with it. Literally cut it out and turn it sideways on the page, and then try to fix some of the issues so that you can go up onto the, in fact, I wouldn't even put it on one side of the page. I would take the whole page. I would take that whole page, cut it just above his head and just below the bottom, because the bottom actually is very good. Everything's lined up. It's really good. You've got a good baseline going. Your angles are good. You've got a good angle on that scythe coming down. I would cut that bit out and I would open a new 2-page layout and stick it right in the middle of that rectangle, crossing the 2 pages. Then go in with a different color. Try and put in your boundaries, which again, you haven't put in your boundaries, Ashley. Naughty girl.
I erased them.
You erased them?
Yeah.
I erased mine too, but I drew them back in. So you should have done that, because anything you did after that would have been skewed slightly by all that blank space. You should have still kept your boundaries. So draw your boundaries back in where you think they should be, not around the piece of paper that you cut out. You're squeezing your drawing, yes. You're basically, in Photoshop, they call it constraining the proportion. If you don't constrain the proportion, you end up with this, which is what you've got.
And so
this one side of it is really good. Uranus side is really good. So I would put the center point, that center point where the 3 pieces meet, Gaia, the hand and the sickle, that central point, put that slap bang in the middle along that centerpiece of your page. And straight away, you should see how much room Uranus takes up compared to little baby Saturn. Because if you actually stand back from it, if you put it up like against your monitor and stand back from it, what you see is Cupid. You see Cupid, not Saturn. You've got Cupid, not Saturn. He's tiny. He's a little baby boy. He needs to be much taller. He needs to be much more imposing. You've not left yourself enough space to make that happen.
So I think you're making a really, really good point for this class, because your mind will do this without you even knowing it.
Yes.
And it's such an important thing to remember, to turn your page.
Yeah.
It's so, yeah. And it's easy to forget.
It is easy. I've done it myself. I've done it myself. It's not, I always think back, and I say it quite a lot in my classes because it's a really easy and memorable thing. There was a makeover show when I was a kid, and this guy was doing makeup, and he said, everybody starts with the eye makeup, and it's wrong. You should start with the eyebrows, because if you don't know how big your canvas is, you cannot paint a masterpiece. Always get your canvas in the right orientation first, landscape to landscape, portrait to portrait. If we'd only been doing Saturn, portrait would have been fine. If we'd only been doing Uranus, you could have got away with only doing portrait if you were drawing him sideways, if you're only drawing the top half of him or something like that. But with a rectangular composition, you're always going to have to draw landscape to get that triangle, because your triangle, the triangle that you've drawn is a right-angled triangle, like an equilateral right-angled triangle. And what you really need is a, what do they call it? Andrea, what's the one where one side is longer than the other? Isosceles? No, that's the one where it's pointed in the middle.
No.
No, that's the one that doesn't have a right angle. You've got a right angle and you've done it as a square. You need the right angle triangle of a rectangle. But if you take that central point and put it right slap bang in the middle of your page, you can estimate how far out Uranus' head is, and then take out, it roughly goes to this long side of Saturn. So for the whole thing, you actually need the side of Saturn plus his arm and spear. So you need to continue that diagonal line. So what you'll find is that most of what you've already drawn will be on the left. And in order to get it proportionally correct, you'll need to extend it on the top right. Okay? Have a go, see how far you get. You can always redraw.
Thank you.
What might benefit you actually, because you have an iPad and you're not afraid to use it, what might benefit you with this kind of stuff is to do it on the iPad so that when this kind of thing happens, you can go, oh, that's fine. I'll just change the ratio of the drawing. Here's the drawing. I'll shrink it down, move it here, make the canvas a bit bigger, and lo and behold, I've got more room to extend it. You might find that more useful in terms of this kind of stuff. I mean, usually your drawings are fine, but when we're talking about composition, you do struggle with composition a bit. So next time we do something that's more aimed towards composition, even if you start drawing it, you know, at this point, you started drawing it and then you go, oh, hang on a minute, this isn't quite right. Snap a photo on your tablet, import it, resize it, redo it, and then you've got a guesstimate for what you need to do on your paper.
Yeah.
That might help you with your composition. Anybody else been drawing along? Mara? She's been beavering away there. What have you been up to? Ooh, nice. Nice action. I like it.
Very good. Nice starting in landscape.
Yeah, you've really got the whole going on there. You've even managed to correct Saturn's pose more successfully than I have, actually. You've got his leg position much more. Ah, I see what you've done. Instead of moving the thigh, you've moved the foot back. So his foot is, instead of having his thigh there and his foot here, you've done that. That's an interesting way of fixing it. Oh, I might try that myself, actually, because that could be actually a better way of doing it. Oh, yeah, I'm going to try that. So his foot would be mid-calf. Yeah, that would make more sense. Then you could draw the whole leg as it normally is, but put the foot in the right place. You've got some great gesture work going on there. The action, the movement, you've got him moving back on his hands. You've got Saturn twisting forward. You've got all these push going in. You've got the turn of the torso. The only thing I can see that you're missing slightly, if you look at Saturn's left side, his back and his hip, only from under his arm to the top of his hip. In fact, that line that you've drawn where the hip is, you're missing his side. If he's twisted like that, you would see part of his side. So you just need to draw in that part of the block and you've got a brilliant piece there. It's really good. Really good. Excellent work. Anyone else want to share? Andrea? How's your thug Saturn going?
Well, for a rank beginner, you be a little bit.
Oh,
great.
Hang on. I've got to cancel the spotlight on Andrea. It shifted on me and then it moved and it brought me back. Also very good. Mm-hmm. Also very good. Good anatomy. Have you studied anatomy at all?
No, not a bit. But this was fun.
You just followed what was on the already there.
Yeah.
It's good. It's very good. You've got a problem with that leg too.
Yeah.
That leg is awful. But, you know, look what we're working with.
Well, and I started with the spine and this, so I didn't have enough room to finish him down here.
That's okay, because it adds to the effect of him moving away. The fact that he's sinking into the floor kind of adds to the effect. But yeah, compositionally, you've got the same problem as Ashley, but you started on the opposite side. So it's the bottom left that you need to extend, not the top right.
Yeah.
But otherwise, very good. I love the turn of that body. Now see, that's the bit that you're missing, Mara. You see it underneath his arm, those wibbly bits.
Yeah.
That's the bits you're missing. If you take a straight line from the pit of his underarm straight down to where his butt joins his hip, everything left of that is what you're missing. Yeah, really good. I like it.
Thanks.
Good. I think one of the best pieces. I love Uranus' face. You've done a really good job there of getting the face tilted back. But actually, one of the best pieces I like is the shape of those arms. He really does look like he's swinging a scythe. Because when you use a scythe, you swing it that way, don't you? And he really does look like he's swinging it. That's a really good turn on that.
Maybe it helps that I've actually used a scythe in my life.
It might do, because if you've used the scythe yourself, you'll have seen other people doing it. So it will be an impression that's in your head.
Yep.
That you've seen that movement happen so many times. Your legs are a little off. I mean, obviously the left leg is off completely. Look what
this one or this guy? Saturn?
No, Saturn. I would do what Mara did, actually. I would move that foot over to overlap the calf on Saturn, and then draw the calf in between. Does that make sense? So his left foot would overlap his right foot.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's done the right thing there by moving the foot rather than trying to redraw the thigh. The thigh is awful. But you could actually take the foot and move it so that the heel is touching the middle of the knee, and then redraw the calf, and that actually would look right.
Yes, when I got the picture to enlarge, I noticed that I had my heel. If I had turned my heel, it would have changed everything with the.
Yeah, it would have.
Yeah.
The other leg, you haven't so much drawn him standing on his leg as sitting on a pillar.
He needed some support.
He needed some support. Well, the other Titans weren't doing anything to help him, were they? I honestly, I wouldn't bother changing that. I would just turn it into some kind of a rock or pillar, as if he's sitting on it. Call it interpretation. That his leg is as wide as his back.
Well, that could be a problem.
That could be a problem. Yeah. So you need to look at that again, or just turn it into a pillar and pretend it's supposed to be like that.
No, I'll change it.
But you need to do what Ashley's done. You need to take that piece of paper and put it on a larger piece of paper so you can extend it. Because although it does work, you're not drawing the whole piece. And as soon as you're missing parts of the anatomy, that's where it starts to go a little bit wrong. Because what you've done is you've shortened that standing leg in order to try and fit it in. And by shortening it, you've made it thicker as well.
Okay.
His ankle shouldn't be higher than Uranus' buttocks. If you imagine where Uranus would be sitting, his foot should be a little bit further down than that. And you've tried to squish that ankle and knee into that little space. So I would take that whole piece, stick it on a larger piece of paper, and then redraw that leg so that it's at the right height for where the level of because that his foot actually would be in line with where Uranus' fingers are going over the edge. His hand is kind of draped like that, and Uranus' foot would be on that same level. And at the moment, you've got it kind of like that.
Yep.
Because you've tried to squish it in.
Yep.
So I would do the same as Ashley, but concentrate on dragging it down onto the left corner, because you're doing really well with it. You just ran out of paper.
Absolutely. Oh, this has been fun.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was your idea. Well, it was my idea, but you know, you came up with the idea to do the storyboard. I just thought it would be fun to try a classical piece. Anybody else want to share? Jane, have you been doing bits? You don't draw humans. I don't draw humans. Maybe you could redraw them as like teddy bears or something. That would be interesting. Anybody else want to share anything? No? Okay, well, I'll tell you what. How about you all have another tweak at your things, you know, perhaps have another go at it. Mara's is really good. It doesn't need much changing. So perhaps, you know, try again, see if you can improve it. The girls will need to extend theirs. Make sure you've got your composition a bit more rectangular than square. And perhaps on Saturday, because I don't think my shoulder's really bad. I don't think my shoulder's going to stand up to working on making books and stuff. So perhaps we finish this off on Saturday and add some colour to it. Do an outline. In fact, I could show you how to we could transfer it onto a new piece of paper and outline it and then colour it with pencil if you want. Because the shading is very interesting. The shading makes the muscles really stand out, but it's very simplified. It's very, here's the light bits, here's the highlights, and here's the bits in the middle. Or would you rather do bookbinding? Do a class on composition. I've done a class on composition before, actually. I've got a thing on composition somewhere. I will dig it out. 2014 class, I think it was. Is that right, Andrea? 2014? I think 2014 was when we did technical bits. Perspective. Yeah, I've definitely done perspective. Yeah, they're basic fundamentals in drawing that we really need to. It's the boring bits at the beginning of the book that nobody ever wants to do, isn't it? I can't teach foreshortening. I can teach you the concept of foreshortening, but I can't teach you how to do it because I can't do it myself. It's really hard to do. In the same way that I can't really teach you how to draw hands because it's a bit of a, you know, trial and error. But sorry, I forgot to pin my video again. I'll dig out the bits that I've got on composition and perspective. And yeah, maybe we'll do that Saturday. You'll be at work on Saturday. No, well, you'll be able to watch the replay. I'll see. I might put it as, if I can find the videos that explain it already, then I'll just put it in the class and you can just watch the videos because I've already done it. And then perhaps we can go over it a little bit on Saturday when we redraw this and pick out bits. The problem with the Renaissance painters is that perspective and composition, they had specific compositions, but perspective really wasn't something that they bothered with because they didn't really know about what it was, which I suspect is why they don't know how to foreshorten things. Although Da Vinci was extremely good at it, but then he understood perspective. You look at any of his invention drawings, he absolutely understands perspective. This guy, not so much. Maybe what we need to look at specifically is the perspective and composition that they would have used in Renaissance times. And then build it up from there. I don't know. I'm going to have to think about it. I'm going to have to think about it and decide what we're going to do. Because also I don't have much prep time. I've got an hour or so tonight, but then tomorrow, if Twitch works, I've got Twitch and then I've got YouTube and then it's my night off. If Twitch doesn't work, I've got all of Friday morning. So we'll see. It might be something that I need to do composition and perspective later on. It might be something we need to put on the list, maybe to look at next month, because there's several classes next month that I don't have yet. But I don't know if my shoulder's going to hold up to doing bookbinding and stuff on Saturday. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe this is something we can come back to. But either way, you know, we've had fun doing it. So, and it's something that you can do. Oh, what happened there? Stop that. It's something you can do with other artists as well. If you've got an artist that you really enjoy, you don't necessarily have to do this particular artist. Like, for instance, my thing at the moment is Waterhouse. I've always liked Waterhouse, but I'm really into his pieces at the moment. And I've got a, where have I put it? Seriously? I thought I put it in, I could have sworn I put it there. What in tarnation? Oh, there it is. So what I did was just in GIMP, I made a, not in even GIMP actually, in Word, I downloaded some from the Waterhouse website. Hang on. These are sketches for his paintings. This is Circe, this is the Hylas and the Nymphs, the Lady of Shalott. And I just love how he does faces. I love how he does the lips, especially, because I struggle with lips. But I really like how he does the lips. I've always thought this girl was absolutely gorgeous. So I'm just looking at how he deals with different aspects of the face. And I literally just threw all these into Word, printed them out, and I'm just gonna, you know, have a go at like redrawing bits, or, you know, look at those eyes. Those eyes are fantastic. So much emotion in those eyes, and it's just a sketch. It's not even a study, because a study would be in oil paint. It's a sketch in pencil. But those eyes are so expressive. And the hands, look how he does hands. Amazing hands. Look at this one. It's fantastic. Nobody draws hands like Waterhouse. Yeah, I'll have to see. I'll think about it, and I'll decide on the day what we're going to do. I'll surprise you. How about that? You want to cover Uranus and astrology and the houses and such as well. Uranus doesn't really affect the houses because he's the ruler of Aquarius. So when we get to the Aquarian house, we will deal with Uranus anyway. Uranus in astrology in the houses, I actually put a really good link that tells you all of the different houses and all the sign combinations. So if you've got Libra in the 9th, Uranus in Libra in the 9th, or Uranus in Aquarius in the 2nd, or whatever, it tells you all of those different combinations and what it relates to. But we haven't done all of the houses yet. So, you know, it's a bit, I mean, I could tell you what Uranus in the 9th means because I've got Uranus in the 9th, but we haven't done the 9th house yet. So it won't really help you. But if you think of Uranus as being the ruler of Aquarius, and you know what Aquarius is like, hang your freak flag high, do things in a different way, don't worry about whatever, fight for the underdog, don't worry about what everybody else is doing, not particularly about the individual, but about the group as a whole, you can't really go far wrong with it. And then put that into the house, and if you look up your house, what is that house generally about? So Uranus in the 5th, for instance, house of creativity, ruled by Leo. Is that right? So if Uranus is creativity, you're going to be one of those people that pushes the boundaries. That's like I wonder if Da Vinci had Uranus in his creativity zone, because that would be a very typical expression of it, using science and technology and the underpinnings of things to push the boundaries of what you can do with art. That would be a very Uranian thing. So, okay. Should we call it a day? Let me know how you get on with. Yep. Yep.
Are you gonna do YouTube later?
Thursday? No, not on a Thursday. Friday.
Oh.
I don't do YouTube and Twitch on the days that I teach. I can do YouTube and Twitch together on the same day, but I can't teach on the day as well. It takes an awful lot out of you doing this for 2 hours. Especially for me, because I don't prepare really. I fly by the seat of my pants most of the time. I decided about an hour before we started. Well, I pulled this painting out the other day as a potential kind of something we could look at, but I didn't really know what we were going to do with it until about an hour before we started. And I suddenly went, we could draw it. And that was my preparation for the class. So everything else I've done has been like literally doing it on the spot. And that's a lot of energy. So my teaching days and my play days are separate.
I'm just feeling selfish and needy.
Yeah, okay. Well, have you watched the last 5 hours of me making a Oh, you were there, weren't you? You were there doing the Victorian journals. Okay, I'll see if I can find some videos on composition and stuff for you all to watch and play with. All right? How about that? All right. So, yeah, see you Saturday. We'll put in the thingy what we're going to do on Saturday when I decide.